Let's move on to the next spot. 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Washington football team 2-5, 1-2 on the road at Denver Broncos. 3-4, 1-2 at home. We're at Empower Field in Mile High, Denver, Colorado. 50 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy. 9 miles per hour is the wind. This total opened up at 44. There's 44s, 43 and a half, and 43s. Denver opened up as 3.5-point favorites. Now that was at plus 105, so take it with a grain of salt. But they've moved to 3. And Sports Interaction's gone ahead and moved them to 2.5-point favorites. If we go over to the cash flow in this spot, 2,143 tickets in. 67% of the tickets on Heineke in the Washington football team, and 71% of the cash. And we don't have cash totals on the total, but we do know that 55% of tickets are on the under. 55% of tickets, and it's dropped a point, or at the most, it's dropped a point. But also, it's interesting that Pinnacle is the only spot that's moved it to 43. Actually, Bodog has two. Washington lost its third straight, despite outgaining Green Bay 430 to 304 and never punting all day. Never punting all day. It just makes me so fucking angry that I can't cash a plus 9.5 when I beat the market movement. I mean, just by 1.5. But it just makes me extremely angry. Washington had 5 scoreless trips inside the Green Bay's 30. Back-to-back series that ended inside the 5. God, just taking me back makes me angry and angrier. 25 first downs compared to the Packers' 19. Heineke, 25 for 37 for 268 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Ran 10 times for 95 yards and is a little bitch. Just a little fucking bitch. That not getting in when he had 2.5 feet of room easy is about as angry as I've been all year. McLaurin was his number one target, 7 catches for 122 yards, 1 touchdown. Jonathan Allen had 2 sacks, give him 5 on the season. Chase Young never got to Rodgers, didn't touch him all day, and 1.5 sacks on the season. What the fuck's going on with Chase Young? As a team, they managed 3 sacks, 6 quarterback hits. Cornerback William Jackson, knee injury. Offensive tackle Sam Cosmi, ankle. Guard Brandon Scherf, knee. Wide receiver Cam Sims. Wide receiver Curtis Samuel. Defensive end Shaka Toney. All missed Sunday's game. They're listed as questionable. Wide receiver Giammi Brown suffered a knee injury in the first half. Logan Thomas and Ryan Fitzpatrick are week to week. They're not coming back anytime soon. Broncos coming off a disappointing 17-4. Well, I shouldn't say anytime soon. They're not coming back this week. Let's just leave it at that. Broncos coming off a disappointing 17-14 loss at Cleveland against the Browns team, missing their top quarterback and 2 top running backs. They've now lost 4 straight, and they may have lost Von Miller to a sprained ankle. 8-time Pro Bowler, missed all of 2020 with a dislodged ankle tendon. He missed practice Tuesday. He's listed as day-to-day, but because of that dislodged ankle tendon, I don't know if he plays here. Bridgewater, 23 of 33 for 187 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, playing through foot and quadricep injuries. This is a beat-up football team that's not looking good. Cortland led receivers with 5 catches for 68 yards. They got nothing out of their ground game. 14 carries for 41 yards. Javonte Williams ran 4 times for 20, caught 6 passes for 32 yards and a touchdown. Melvin Gordon looked atrocious. Ran 8 times for 18 yards. They managed just 1 sack, 5 quarterback hits. Inside linebacker Micah Kaiser, groin left in the first quarter. They're already thin at linebacker. Alexander Johnson and Andre Mintz are on injured reserve. And then Kaiser was just placed on IR too. Coach Fangio said that defensive tackle Mike Purcell probably won't play against Washington. Fangio said Friday he expects Judy to return from injured reserve. But this is a beat-up Broncos squad. And it's interesting that – or, I mean, it just makes sense, I should say, that the market's moving towards Washington. Take it away, Bebsie, Washington, Broncos.
I mean, I don't know how you can back Washington going into Mile High. Even with the injuries to the Broncos, Washington's got some significant injuries of their own, particularly to Logan Thomas, who I think really opens up this offense. He becomes that second receiving threat because really you're just operating with Terry McLaurin here and not too much else. So I'm, especially with it moving to a 2.5, I'm kind of intrigued on the Broncos at home here in a possible get-right spot. Judy coming back, if for nothing more than opening up Cortland Sutton. Washington coming off a game in which they Green Bay didn't even try to run the ball, which blew my mind. I really thought those were easy looks there because I thought Green Bay would get up early and run the ball. They didn't. They barely had any carries. But I think you could see the Broncos get their running game going, but more so I have a little bit of faith in Judy. Again, not necessarily blowing up now that he's back, but opening up the game a little bit more for Cortland Sutton. So I think it's Broncos or no play here. I'm not super keen on jumping on it. And I also think the under is a possible look because, again, neither of these teams is a team that I think is going to pour on points.
Do you need to know that Von Miller is in the lineup? At this point, do you expect him to be in the lineup?
I took some pot shots at Von Miller's comments before last week. Yeah. And I wound up being right for the most part. I said he should have done something instead of saying that he was going to do something. And, what he did was end up getting injured and they lost anyways. I like Von Miller a lot. Obviously, he's had a pretty incredible career. He's obviously slowed down quite a bit. I don't know if he has an uptick next year after he's a little further removed from the injury, but it's not like he's playing out of his mind right now. It's not like if the Steelers lost TJ Watt. So I don't know how much that would factor in for me. Other than the fact that he is a vet, he is a leader. Obviously, the other guys on that defense are going to look up to him. I think at this point, he's more of an emotional leader than he is a playmaker, which is sad to say because, he's not even that old. Like, Von Miller should have many years left, but it just comes down to his health.
Huh. I am having a tricky time with this game. I can understand the market move to Washington. I can understand trying to, with the Broncos, with the extra days to prepare and it being such an important time for Fangio and the squad. And I can also get not trusting Washington at all. But I'm hesitant at this point. Crystal Warren loving the over here. Says first bet I made without too much doubt. Says Washington hasn't held a team to less than 20 all year. And this total is at 43 at Pinnacle, 43.5 or 44 at different books. And right now we don't know where the cash flow is, but we know that 55% of tickets are on the under. You have any feel on this total, Bebsie, that's moving down slightly?
I get why it's moving down. As injured as this Broncos defense is, as underwhelming as this Washington defense is, I still don't necessarily see either offense being able to put up a ton of points. So I get, if I had a free play, I'd probably lean under, but I don't know.
Al Cervic has a good question. He says, is this Washington as a squad as good as a banged-up, short-handed Browns with Keenum? Now, remember, that game was in Cleveland and this game is in Denver. But is Washington as a squad as good as a banged-up, short-handed Browns team with Keenum?
It's a valid question, and I think the answer is no.
I was gonna say no. I think, but
I don't think that they are. Plus, I don't think they believe in themselves or believe in their opportunity as much as that banged up Brown squad does. There's depth stepping in for the Browns and playing well. I just think with Washington, they have a massively underwhelming defensive front seven right now, and I don't know what the problem is. There is talent there, and they have done nothing. So It's for me, it would be Denver or no play, and it's hard to bet Denver. I mean, the biggest upside for them is being at home right now.
We have Craig saying Broncos fan in Colorado here. I'm going with Washington money line at plus 140. It feels like with the Broncos having lost 4 straight, that if they lose this game, it's all going to fall apart, and Fangio won't be here next year.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget that Fangio was on the hot seat this past season, and a lot of people thought he would be gone. If they implode the way it looks like they might, then yeah, he might be gone before the year's done. But it's not like Washington is. It's not like Washington's been incredible.
AB says can't back Denver right now. As bad as Washington football team's defense is, I might look to Denver team total under 23.5. All right, that game's going to need more time. Interesting that Crystal Warren's so bullish on this over. Alseri says go watch first half of Thursday, 71 yards in the half for the Broncos. And if you want this 3 for Washington, if you want to have Washington plus 3, you got to move on it now. And Washington, from a yards perspective, was playing so well in that football game. Maybe Washington plus 3 should be moved on it. Craig says Fangio and Shermer should have been gone before the season started. Let's just take one last look at where the money is in this spot. It's all on Washington. 67% of tickets, 71% of cash on Washington. Huh. God, maybe I should grab that 3. This Broncos team looks like it just might. I mean, Bridgewater dealing with all these injuries. I guess I should wait to see what happens with Judy, because Judy comes back and changes their offense a great deal, and you mentioned that. So maybe I'll wait a little bit. Nate Dogg, 420 in the house. Great to have you. Paul Young says Washington playing better on D. Should have been in the Green Bay game until the end. A few bad breaks. You know, God, you're so right. And God, is as angry as I've been when Heineke didn't get over the touchdown line. It's about I gotta let go of it. I'm still just filled with fucking seething anger. Okay, I have interest in Washington at plus 3, especially with Craig in Colorado. Alseri said I'm in Colorado too. They're back to square one after this year. Players will start to realize. Pocket quarterback Lamar Jackson says Judy is back. Brady says ugly game. C-Mac says ugly game. Okay,